Welcome to another episode of Explore Greene County. I am excited about our guest today. We have the CEO of Grant Memorial Hospital, Skip Gjolberg. Skip,
JR,
how you doing?
I'm doing great.
Thank you.
Thanks for taking time to talk to me.
You're a very busy man, splitting time at two hospitals, so thank you for taking the time. We really appreciate it. So we'll get right into it because you're super busy. So why don't you start by telling our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, my name is Skip Gjolberg. That's GJ. You know, I get a lot of Goldberg and gold, mail and things like that. As JR mentioned, I live in Buckhannon. I also run another hospital for WVU Medicine at St. Joseph's Hospital. I've been there about 6 years. I grew up, I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in Williamsburg, Virginia. Graduated there in 1981. I went to college at Texas A&M. I was going to be a fighter pilot. I was going to be the next...
Chuck Yeager?
Chuck Yeager. Thank you, JR. Yes, I read Chuck's autobiography, and I thought, I want to be Chuck Yeager. And that was my plan. But I ended up going to A&M on a scholarship with the Navy, got out of that, changed majors from engineering. I think no kid stays in their same major. Graduated with a degree in exercise phys. Couldn't find a good job. Went to work for a physical therapist. Did that for about a year. Said, I want to be a PT. Went to PT school in Texas. Got out. Got a nice job working as a physical therapist. Went to work at a hospital about a year later and as a rehab director. So I was in a large 200-bed hospital. Did that for 11 years. But in that time, I got my master's degree. And the sisters kept asking me to manage more and more stuff. And so I thought, maybe God's plan for me is to not be a rehab director. Maybe it's to be in administration. Okay. So I started looking for administrative jobs. I wanted to stay there. They were kind of flattening. They weren't expanding. So I ended up going outside of that hospital, ended up going to Wisconsin.
Wow.
So went from 100-degree days to minus 20-degree winters up in Wisconsin. Went to work for a group of sisters up there. Worked at a Catholic hospital for about 7 years. And that was between two hospitals, a large 9-story and then a smaller community hospital about 20 minutes away. So I was the assistant administrator. And then from there, I went to a rural critical access hospital, very similar to Grant Memorial and St. Joe's in Buckhannon. And I was the chief administrative officer in Prairie du Chien, Wisconsin. Beautiful area on the Mississippi River across from Iowa. I was there for about 3 years, and part of my job there was to work on a renovation expansion. And actually, we built a brand new hospital kind of on the edge of town where Walmart had come and built. And then I got my first CEO opportunity to go back to Texas, and I went to a little place called Cuero, Texas, Cuero Community Hospital. Small hospital, very similar to here, but not a critical access hospital because of some distance requirements that you have to become critical access. Okay. So they were a prospective payment system hospital, and I was there about 3 years, but I noticed that second time in Texas, it's really hot. And it was, we just were not enjoying the environment. And so I started looking back up in Wisconsin, but I also saw this opportunity to come to West Virginia to go to work at St. Joseph's in Buckhannon. And I, as I mentioned, I've worked in Catholic healthcare most of my life in healthcare, and wanted to go back and work for some sisters. They were becoming part of WVU, so I was there as part of that transition. And so I made that move in 2016, and so I've been there about 6 years, and now I've been here a little over a month.
I will try to not let the fact that you're an Aggie, I'll try not to hold it against you.
So what do you know? What do you know about Aggies? You have some friends that are Aggies, or are you you're not a University of Texas fan? Are
no,
you?
No. Oh, listen, when you're part of living in West Virginia, you have to be a WVU fan.
Oh yeah,
and so. We're not going to.
And so I'm happy if WVU is playing the University of Texas, they can whoop them all they want, because that's our rival as far as being a Texas Aggie. So
yeah. So how many days a week are you on site here? Because you said you were splitting time between the two.
Yeah. So trying to do about 2.5 and 2.5. So right now I've been coming over Wednesdays afternoon and then Thursday, Friday. And but starting in April, I'm going to kind of flip-flop that, come here Monday mornings, and then head out Wednesday, probably around the lunch hour, to go over to St. Joe's. So I should go back to I should probably just mention it. I'm married.
Okay.
I have 5 kids, so 2 boys, 3 girls. I have 1 son in Dallas who's married, And in fact, we're getting ready to go see our granddaughter there, our brand new granddaughter, and they have a grandson who's 2. My next son is working for WVU. He's in Morgantown with his wife. She's an optometrist.
So you gained a few points there.
I did, yeah. My daughter-in-law got out of optometry school and was not really happy with her job in Austin, Texas. And I connected her to the chair of ophthalmology. They spoke. He offered her a job. It was really what she wanted to do. So my son and daughter-in-law moved to Morgantown. So we're super excited to have them in the state, you know. I have another daughter in Omaha. She's got 2 grandkids and married. And then I have a daughter in Front Royal, Virginia, not very far from here. So coming here is really nice because I can get over there to see her a little more often while she's in school. And then my youngest is getting ready to go to college, and she's going to go to the same school in Front Royal. So that'll be great. And then I've told them, you should come over on a weekend, go out to Dolly Sides, go down to Seneca Rock. I mean, it's so beautiful here.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really become a vacationing hub too, which is nice.
Yeah.
That's good. So like you said, you were going to flip.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're not here, how do you kind of manage things that are going on in this hospital?
Well, COVID, for all the negative part of it, there was some things that we developed out of that, the virtuality of things. So we're doing these virtual meetings. So every morning at 8:30, I do a virtual stand-up meeting with my crew at St. Joe's, and then at 9:15, I do a virtual stand-up meeting with the crew here at Grant Memorial. So it doesn't matter where I'm at, we do these virtual things. And so it's my way to touch base every day and find out what's going on for that day, what are people doing, what are they working on. And so that's one way that really helps. The other thing I'm doing, I haven't introduced it here, but I've introduced it back at St. Joe's, is I get my managers to give me a weekly written update. What are they working on, and what are they going to be working on next week? And so I can kind of see over time, if I see some project that, well, you said you're going to do this next week, but next week came and went and there was no motion. Hey, let's keep that moving too, So trying to develop these remote, more accountability measures,
Okay, so with that, then, it dovetails into the very next question. What would you consider your management style then? What's something about that makes you kind of unique in that?
I'm definitely not a micromanager. In fact, I've had people at my other hospital tell me now that I've been there this long that I let them run their shows, unless they're completely going off the rails. You run your show. You know your book of business. I'm not an expert unless you're the rehab director. I know rehab because that was my book of business. But unless you run your show, I'm there to help keep you on the rails, make sure things are going good, give you some direction, try to hold you accountable to keep moving things forward. But I let my people do their thing. They know they're the experts, and I'm just kind of an advisor, a counselor. I want to make sure they have the tools that they need. So if it's a tool from a planner to a laptop, or if it's some leadership training. So we do a lot of leadership training at the other facility, and I'd like to kind of introduce some of that here. We call them LDIs, and we do them once a quarter. So every 4 months we do a leadership development institute. It's usually a 1 or 2 day program with a focus on something that would help a leader be a better leader.
Okay, that's great. So now it's kind of been big news for our community. So I want you to explain a little bit about the letter of intent that we have with WVU, like what it means to our current operation for people that are just like, oh, WVU's coming in. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah, well, so the Grant County Board of the hospital felt that a relationship with WVU would be beneficial. And I think, I saw that when I came to St. Joe's, because they had just come on board with WVU about 6 months before I got there. And being aligned with an academic medical institution is very beneficial. You get a lot of access to specialists, whether either directly with a physician or a mid-level provider or through telemedicine. And so it starts to set the framework for this organization to come into the WVU medicine system. That's what that letter of intent starts to kind of outline parameters. And then, the board here and the legal beagles will be working together on kind of the details. It's a little more complicated when it's a quasi-governmental organization because it's a county hospital than, say, an independent freestanding hospital, say like in Kaiser. When Kaiser Potomac Valley came in, that was independently owned. Easier from a legal perspective, make sure everything is proper. But I think the county, both us and Pendleton and Hardy, I'm getting the county straight and geographically where they are. I think they'll like what WVU can help bring, here. Get some economies of scale with buying things, so they should be able to kind of run things at a lower cost. Access to some depth on the bench, which was really one of the things we noticed at the other hospital. Just more depth on the bench with billing and resources, some legal advisors that can help you. You don't have to always outsource those kind of things. So it brings an opportunity for a lot. And I think, like you said, West Virginians like West Virginia University. And so you'll see the brand as well, which will be nice. I think that'll help draw as well. So,
what are some changes that you think the community will be able to see with WVU coming in?
Well, I mean, there'll be physical changes, like the sign will look different. Yeah. You'll see a little more blue and gold around. But I hope, like the cancer center that just opened up, hopefully more types of things like that, bringing in access to more specialists here, again, either physically or via telemedicine, which is really, again, one of the good spinoffs of COVID has been this whole telemedicine piece. It depends on the kind of physician, whether they have to have hands-on or they can operate more just via a virtual relationship and have either a nurse or an advanced practice provider there doing hands-on for them.
And when do you see this process being completed?
I'm being told that it's going to take a while. Sometime in 24. Right? No, I'm sorry, in 23. We're in 22 now. Yeah. So yeah, next year, and I think from my perspective and the folks here, the sooner the better, because it'll also bring in the new electronic medical record, which is Epic, and Epic is epic, so to speak. I mean, it really helps tie things together. It gives us really good what we call interoperability. So physicians that we work with, we can give them a piece of Epic called We Care, so they can see their patient's information in Epic through their whatever EMR they use. When I say EMR, it's electronic medical record. So it allows better communication. You don't have to repeat studies because the site you go to doesn't have access to it. They can see imaging studies, they can see lab results and things like that. And Epic really works, it gives you physician office electronic record, it's hospital record, it works for the lab, it works for imaging. Whereas now we have our own EMR in the hospital, and then the physician offices that we employ, they have a different electronic medical record. But we'll be able to communicate, I think, a lot better. And then people that get transitioned from, say, here, and they need a higher level of care, they're going to go to Ruby, they're going to go to Berkeley or whatever. Whatever we did here, they can pull it up there. It's all the same record.
Information is power.
Information
and having it at
power.
your fingertips is important.
Yeah. And all the specialists that are part of that can all access that same information. So, I have a mother-in-law that lives in San Antonio, and she's been having some issues. And one doctor works for one thing, one doctor's independent. They don't talk to each other very well. They don't share the same record. Really hard for her information to flow well. It really bottlenecks things, cause her to have to do repeat studies, repeat MRIs, repeat whatever. So I really see the advantage here of how we put this together for the state of West Virginia.
So moving on now from West Virginia back to you and your new leadership position here, do you see any immediate changes that you want to make?
I don't know. I mean, introducing, like I said, the stand-up meetings, so we are talking on a daily basis. I don't think that was there before with leadership. They do a safety huddle every day where they talk about any issues that came up yesterday and going into tomorrow. That's more kind of looking across the organization. I know I've been walking the grounds with Brad, the engineer or facility manager, just kind of talking about getting some things repaired, replaced, things like that, which has been part of what they have on their budget plan this year. I know they got it budgeted to resurface the parking lots, and it looks like it's time, things like that. We're going to be doing a floor project, so you're going to see some new flooring come into the hospital. And they just recently did some projects on their med-surg unit and their ICU beds and redid some of those. Looks really nice, very, very up-to-date with the technology in there. So
is there kind of like a feeling out period where you're like, I got to get my feet wet a little bit to get into this? And
I'm still trying to meet people, trying to meet physicians and other providers. and the staff, and just get into all the departments. Yesterday I was down in the crawl space under the hospital, looking at the steam pipes, and down in the boiler room looking at the boilers and the other stuff that the behind the scenes stuff that people don't really realize what it takes to make kind of any kind of building run. You know what you have in your house, but when you scale it up like a hospital or some other large big office building, it takes a lot of technology and equipment and people to make those things work. When you go to flip a light switch on or adjust your heat, that you get heat and you get power.
So with you saying that WVU, we're looking at like 2023 when they finally are in here, do you see any new services that you'll be adding before they
well, we're going to work. Yeah, I mean, we're going to work on I'm going to try to get anything I can get, and so it'll be, what does WVU have capacity to do? Where might they come from? Because obviously Morgantown is not just down the road. So can we, is there an opportunity to get some folks coming over from Berkeley maybe, or from Garrett, or from even maybe from a sister critical access hospital like Potomac Valley? So I haven't kind of gotten to that point yet. We are like today literally working on kind of our goals and strategic plan, because this facility they don't run their year on a calendar year. They start July 1. So we're kind of working on the goals for the next fiscal year right now, and what do we need to be doing as far as physician recruiting and like facility upgrades, technology, and things of that nature. So,
are you pleased with what you've seen so far here at Great Memorial?
I mean, yes, good people. Last night I was down in the med-surg unit and the SCU, which is the special care unit, talking to the staff. Saw young lady mentoring 2 nursing students, and herself was working on her master's in nursing, and just meeting people, and everybody has been great, here. Down in the ER, talking with the ER doc and meeting the ER staff and kind of learning how things flow. They were talking to a guy, I can't remember his name. They call him, I think his name is Dave. He's one of the ER nurses. They call him Dad because his initials are DAG or DAD. And they're like, he's our dad, and he takes care of us, and we're so glad when he comes. He's a rock-solid nurse. He's been here for 9 or 10 years, and I was just visiting with him and said, you got some real fans in there, So the team works well together.
That's good. One of the big things, and I was here for the ribbon cutting ceremony, and one of the big things was the cancer center.
Right.
And
it's beautiful.
I don't think people fully grasp yet what that means to our community.
Yeah.
It's a huge plus. So what kind of care is actually offered here at Great Memorial Hospital with that?
Well, so you call it the cancer center, and it has a cancer focus. It's an infusion center. So it's the and I believe it's 8. Is it 8? I wish I had that number in front of me. But so we've got these bays where people come for their chemotherapy infusions, and getting chemotherapy is not very pleasant. And for those listeners that have had it, you go somewhere and you get infused over a several-hour period, and you can feel really bad. So for them having to drive some distance and having to come back through the mountains
and over the mountains,
right.
Oh.
So being able to do that here is really a game changer for people, And so these are kind of individual rooms, but they also have doors in between, so you can open up. If you've developed a friendship with somebody else, you can open up the door and communicate across there, which is really nice. So they've been able to, put in these really nice heated recliners. So because you're sitting there for a little while, so it's comfortable. You can recline, you can relax. And so we have 8 of those, and we have 2 beds. So some people have to be in a bed. So I guess that tells me right there we got 10 spaces.
10 spaces, okay. Which was my next question. How many patients?
10 spaces, 10 patients. So it's not just chemo though. We can do antibiotic infusions. You get a bad infection, and taking an oral antibiotic is just not getting you enough. Then they can put you on an IV infusion of an antibiotic. So you can come in there and get that. You can get blood products. My wife comes to the infusion center at St. Joe's for iron infusions every so often because she just can't really metabolize iron well. So those kind of things, people come in. Some people have a condition where they have to actually take blood out of you because you're making too much blood. People that have platelet issues, other different types of problems. So there's a
lot more than just cancer.
Oh yeah, a lot more than just cancer. I'm just kind of looking at my cheat sheet here, and and there's also a lot of education that goes on back there. So those nurses are educating the patients about what their disease process is and helping them do things that can help them with that. If it's a nutritional thing or exercise, other things that help you live a healthier lifestyle.
So our nurses are getting a crash course in this now as well, too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to have to go through this whole process and learn it.
And they've already been doing that and being trained. So Brooklyn is our nurse manager for the infusion center, and then we also have an advanced practice provider. So when I say that, that's like what we consider a nurse practitioner. So we call them APPs because you can have nurse practitioners or you can have physician's assistants. Both of those are considered advanced practice providers. And we have Kelly Riggleman, who's also working back there, and she's actually a WVU employee that works in the cancer center or in the infusion center with the cancer and oncology patients. So, yeah.
Okay, so that's kind of, I guess, what you would say, that's the credentials that they have to be working in there and what they're working for. And
yeah.
So this
exactly
is
right.
a very big thing for this community. Is there, like, do they have to see a certain doctor and then they get sent here? Is that how it is? Do we have cancer doctors here yet? Or
so you're going to have you're going to see a hematologist, oncologist kind of doctor, and those guys are going to have blood drawn the day of, and then they kind of run them through the lab. They look at kind of where numbers are, and then they kind of put together your chemotherapeutic regimen for that day based on kind of where your lab stuff is. So it's a little bit of a drawn out process to have all that done. And I believe, and I'm sorry, I don't know, JR, I believe the oncologist is on site. But I don't know if it's every time. You're going to have to probably edit some of this. I'm sorry.
Well, I know what we can do is this is how we do it. We say once we get the information, we put it in the comments.
Yeah.
So
all right.
your team can email me, and then I'll put it in the comments, and we'll know.
But yeah, you are right. The nursing staff, they've gone through specialized training in chemotherapy and other advanced kind of cancer regimens, so they know. And then, like I mentioned, Kelly, she comes with that experience, and she's part of that training process for that staff. Yeah.
Well, I do thank you. I thank you for explaining all this because, like I said, I was here for the ribbon cutting ceremony, but to actually know the inner workings, what all it involves, what all it can do, that'll help a lot of people out in the community who, just don't know. And we want to be informative of everything going on. So, final question, and it's not really a question.
Okay.
It's your open mic to say what you want about the hospital, things that you are looking forward to, whatever you close us out.
I just encourage the community. You have a great resource here in this hospital, and sometimes people think, well, I'm gonna go to Winchester and I'll just go see a doctor there because I'm gonna go shop and all that. You need to use your local hospital, all right? Because if you want it to stay here and stay sustainable and stay for the long term and have that emergency room available and have the birthing area when you're going to have a baby or your daughter or granddaughter is going to have babies, you got to use a facility because it needs people using it to generate the revenues to keep it sustainable. So I just encourage people, and I did this back at the other place, use your local hospital. It's a good hospital. It provides great care. Probably you can get 80% of everything you need here locally. There's not that much that you have to go out, and so you start having heart problems and things like that. Then you got to go to the tertiary hospitals. So you don't really need to go out of the community for just basic health care. You can get it all right here in Petersburg or over at the town next door, which is called,
Moorfield?
Moorfield. Why did I draw a blank? Because
That's all right.
I go through Moorfield on the way to my daughter's college. But yeah, so there are, EA Hoss, which is the FQHC. It's a federally qualified health center. They have good primary care. They have Dr. Benson Haver, good primary care. And I'm still learning, so I apologize if I didn't mention somebody. I'm still learning who all the different primary care providers are. But you have great local resources. No reason to go out until you need that higher level of care at a tertiary facility. So do it, and and if if you got a thought, you got a recommendation, you got a concern about something, send me an email. Call the hospital, ask to talk to me. I'd be happy to listen to you. Someone shared with me a letter in the paper the other day from a lady about parking, because when we put the cancer center in or the infusion center in, we took all this parking for that. Well, I think we overdid it. And she said, I come there, I'm elderly, I'm not there for the infusion center, I'm there for something else, and I can't park up close like I need to. So we looked at it and we said, you're right. So we took 4 spots back and put those back into regular patient parking. So we listen to the community and want to make sure that we try to meet the needs of the community as best we can.
And I think listening to the community for some things, and I say some, not all, but for some things is very important.
Sure. Yep.
And we appreciate you being willing to listen to our voice. And
I'll give you my email. You can put it in the notes. People can send me emails if they have thoughts or suggestions about things. So
okay, perfect. Skip, thank
JR.
you once again for spending time with us. I mean, this means a lot to us. And for everyone out there, make sure you go to YouTube, Explore Grant County, Rumble, Explore Grant County, and of course on Facebook, Explore Grant County. We kept it simple.
All right.
For everyone.
Excellent.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Catch you next episode.